It's circulating in the blood. And then they take a booster, they get more circulating in the blood. It is a killer protein.
What if they knew those vaccines caused heart conditions, but recommended them anyway to ensure you took them? That's the actual facts of the matter. Hello there, you awakening wonders. Remember, we are back on June 9th with an all-new look, fantastic show. You are going to love it. In the meanwhile, we're creating content every single day like this content, and you need to join our free speech revolution. Why? Because ultimately, government is limited in what it can offer you, and you have to awaken yourself. Thank God that Trump won, because otherwise, you wouldn't know the degree to which you were lied to during the pandemic era. For example, did you know that they knew about myocarditis? They knew about the heart conditions that the vaccines would cause, and they didn't tell you because they worried that you wouldn't take the vaccine if you knew the truth. Isn't that extraordinary? And isn't that the perfect template for understanding government? If you knew what they were really doing, you would not comply. Let me say that again. If you knew what they were really doing, you would become disobedient. You would become radical. You would become revolutionary, because you would understand that ultimately this is just one example of an evil agenda being played out with the usual tropes of, we're from the government, we're here to help.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
This is for your safety. This is for your convenience. Well, whenever you hear those lies, make sure that you are wide awake inside, because otherwise you will be funneled into death camps. And if it's not as radical and as dramatic as World War II death camps, it will ultimately be as effective. Let's get into this story that comes about as a result of a new Senate inquiry that's revealed the degree to which they understood the risks of myocarditis, the risks of heart disease, the risks of death and adverse events, and lied anyway. Not only did they lie by concealing that information, they shamed anyone who was vaccine hesitant, or as we might call it now, sensible enough to never trust the system. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, God love her, has posted about this. The government knew, the pharma companies knew. That's from her. And here we see the fruits of one of the rare blessings of the COVID pandemic. Martin McCullough is now head of the FDA. Here he is describing exactly what went down and what we're beginning to understand as a result of the disclosures and revelations during the Trump presidency.
Talk to me about the heart inflammation in young boys and young men. It seems reprehensible that the Biden administration wouldn't have warned us about that early and often.
It was part of the Biden medical establishment censorship complex, because any information that related to complications of the vaccines or vaccine injuries was considered COVID vaccine hesitant content. And so it was censored or blocked or slow walked. And so we now have tragically this information that the heart inflammation that occurred in young, healthy men and boys was not disclosed as soon as it should have been. And as a result, thousands of kids probably had this myocarditis complication and didn't have to have it.
How extraordinary. What a staggering degree of unnecessary suffering. Former House Speaker Ron Johnson has spoken at length about how the Biden administration knew the risks and deliberately withheld them. Here's a clip of him now.
A DOD consultant raises concerns to CDC and FDA officials about their ability to monitor and track cardiac-related adverse events. The consultant notes, quote, "If you do not ask, you will not see it." By the end of April 2021, just 4 months into the COVID injection, VAERS was already reporting 2,926 deaths worldwide within 30 days of injection, with 46% of those deaths occurring on day 0, 1, or 2 following injection. A couple months later, 4,812 deaths, 1,736, or 36% of those deaths occurring within the day of injection or within 1 or 2 days. Now, I was raising that issue. I was going on media. I was showing this chart, and I got censored. Radio talk show hosts, when I talked about this, they were deplatformed. So when I finally had a meeting with Francis Collins, head of NIH, I asked him, "Are you watching VAERS?" I gave him those stats. He did admit that 6 deaths were associated with the J&J vaccine, but for the other over few thousand deaths, he said, "Standard people die." That was his callous reaction. That was the head of the NIH, completely blowing off the VAERS system that they had touted before they got the emergency use authorization.
Of course, now the CDC has removed vaccine recommendations for pregnant women and children. The administration is beginning to make the necessary changes. But where is the reckoning? Where is the inquiry? How deep does this go? How much effort and resources did they put into smearing dissenting voices across the world? Hopefully there will be deep revelations around that as well. This is some great reporting on the matter from Fox News. I know. The interim report, spanning 55 pages, obtained and reviewed by Fox News Digital, revealed that the Biden administration officials withheld crucial health information from the subcommittee and the public. According to the report, the formal warning about myocarditis was initially going to be distributed nationwide as a health alert network message, which, according to the CDC, is a primary method of sharing cleared information about urgent public health incidents. However, Johnson's report said that health officials at the CDC and FDA ultimately decided against issuing a warning and instead posted clinical considerations on the CDC website and myocarditis. Information that enables them to control you and frighten you, they will broadcast widely and loudly. Climate change! Get in your house! Is there a tax I can pay for this? Is there a tax I can pay for this? Yeah, there is. Sign up here. If the information might liberate you from the tyranny of their lies, oh, it's just a little clinical warning. Based on subpoenaed records, they had to be subpoenaed to get this information. The subcommittee received today, as well as Freedom of Information Act documents. This interim report will highlight records and present a timeline showing US health officials knew about the risks of myocarditis, and they downplayed it. The report also highlights the Israeli Ministry of Health notifying officials at the CDC of large reports of myocarditis, particularly in young people, following the administration of the Pfizer vaccine. This is going to be extraordinary. Of course, these companies have been granted immunity when it comes to damages, but what about defamation? Surely what needs to happen is that the CEOs of Pfizer and officials at Moderna need to be dragged through the courts of public opinion, need to be exposed as the lies they were. The good thing about this is an opportunity for all of us to unite against corporatism, whether it comes in the form of Big Pharma, statism, or media lies. This is an opportunity for us to oppose them and to rise up in the kind of unity that's required for us to have the true freedom that potentially could be granted by governments that are not maximizing state power but believe in the liberty of the people. Let me know what you think about that in the comments and chat. Rather than provide the public and healthcare providers with immediate and transparent information regarding the risk of myocarditis following vaccination, the Biden administration waited to June 2021 to announce changes to the labels for the Moderna and Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines based on the suggested increased risks of myocarditis and pericarditis, the report says. Even though CDC and FDA officials were well aware of the risk of myocarditis, the Biden administration opted to withhold issuing a formal warning to the public for months about the safety concerns, jeopardizing the health of young Americans. If you are one of those young Americans, let us know in the comments and chat. Let us work together to build a campaign where justice can be done, true justice across the world. A global pandemic reiterates twice that this was everyone across the world. Think of the millions, potentially billions of people affected in a variety of ways. Are you going to get a clearer demarcation of the war we are in, elites versus everyone else, than the fact that we were lied to about an injurious product, near mandated, and in some cases actually mandated if you were a federal or private worker that had this medication imposed on you? This happened not just in the United States, but the UK and across the world. Surely this is an opportunity for us to unite. Of course, if we are to unify, we are going to need a very robust set of principles that aren't derived from the mind of man in order to oppose this Luciferian evil. Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that. This will clear your butt out quick fast. This is a coffee that believes in revolution. If the founding fathers were here today, they'd be drinking this. Alexander Hamilton would be sipping on this stuff. Dear Thomas Jefferson, he'd be downing this. And as for Sam Adams, I reckon he'd be snorting hard lines of it. And at the moment, 1775 Coffee have got a fantastic new deal. They're giving away free starter kits, free bags of coffee, 2 16 ounces of your choice, and the longevity brand, infused with CA-AKG, the clinically studied compound that actually helps reduce your biological age. When I started this, I was very nearly an elderly man. Now I'm one of those babies. Here I am, look at me. I've just had a couple of cups of it. Oh, I've never felt better. And the deal is simple. You pay the cost of 2 bags of coffee and $17.75 takes care of the rest. That includes the 3rd bag and the gear. This sounds like drugs. Matte black tumbler, a frother, gold scoop, reusable K-cup filter. Go to 1775coffee.com/brand and get your free star kit and caffeinate your soul before someone in a boardroom pulls the plug. According to the report, as of April 25th, VARS, the adverse injury site, reported 38,000 deaths and more than 1.6 million adverse events associated with COVID. Of the 38,000 deaths, the report said 25% of them occurred on day 0 or 1 or 2 following the injection, compared to 2,600 reported VARS associated with the flu vaccine over 35 years. This is unprecedented, and you know how the information was controlled. Do you remember the tickers across the screen on mainstream news? This many people have got COVID, that many people have got COVID, this many people have died from COVID. Was it from COVID or was it with COVID? Did they deliberately maximize the number of deaths that come from COVID? And would that same mindset that sought to propagandize the disease at the height of the pandemic, a disease that was caused by a lab leak, that was caused by the very mentality that sought to resolve the problem, do you imagine they're telling us the truth now? Let me know in the comments and chat if you believe we're getting but a dim fragrance of the stench of their corruption. Let me know in the comments and chat if this seems like the only resolution is revolution. Let me know what you think about that in the comments and chat. But what if the vaccine was deliberately engineered to not be safe? Peter McCullough from the Wellness Company, one of our proud and beautiful sponsors over on Stay Free, remember you can follow us at these times on These Days at Rumble, and you should get Rumble Premium, said that the vaccine was engineered to not be safe. Have a look at this.
80% of Americans took a vaccine. 20% didn't. 20% did not take a vaccine. The vaccine was never safe enough for me to take. Messenger RNA, devised by Pfizer and Moderna, has been chemically modified to be unassailable to enzymes in the body to be broken down. The messenger RNA is found in the human heart of people who die after the vaccine. It's found in the brain. The spike protein is found everywhere in the body. 3 studies now show the spike protein is circulating in the blood for 6 to 9 months after people take the shot. This part of the virus, the lethal part of the virus in the vaccinated, it's circulating in the blood. And then they take a booster, they get more circulating in the blood. It is a killer protein. It cannot be safe. It was not safe by design. Safety trumps efficacy. We cannot tolerate false drug claims. And we saw a poster behind Senator Blumenthal making a false drug claim that vaccines saved millions of lives, specifically the COVID vaccine. Well, let's take a look at that. When someone signs consent for a vaccine, Senator Blumenthal, does the consent form say it's going to save their lives? Of course it doesn't. It's not on the FAQ. There's never been a prospective, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial ever showing that COVID-19 vaccines reduce mortality or hospitalization. There's not even a valid non-randomized study. Thankfully, COVID mortality went down for 3 reasons. Because we all got the infection, vaccinated and unvaccinated, so we developed population natural immunity. We developed early treatment. Credit to Operation Warp Speed. We used all the Operation Warp Speed tools, additional drugs. We treated patients with multi-drug protocols at home so they don't go to the ER. So Governor Green never saw the patients we treated because they were successfully treated at home. And the third reason is that the virus mutated to a much milder form. Those things happen concurrently with rollout of the vaccine. The vaccine cannot be falsely credited with saving millions of lives. We can't allow false drug advertising to be put up on a poster behind one of our public servants. We cannot accept that.
So let me quick.
And here, President Trump reveals that, as we've always known and suspected, Big Pharma has undue power over politicians.
I decided I've got to break the system. And it's the most powerful lobby in the world, the drug company. Most powerful, they are the most powerful. And I'm not saying bad, good, I'm not saying anything, but they have tremendous power over the Senate, over the House, over the governors, over everybody. And they spend more money, billions and billions of dollars. And I said, I don't care. I have to do what's right.
There you have it. As you knew, particularly those of you that remained unvaccinated, or those of you that took the vaccine and now regret it, or those of you that took the vaccine and are still somehow trying to cling on to the idea that this was anything other than a global con, Big Pharma have too much power and influence, and particularly with regard to vaccine, they bear no legal consequences for the manner of their crime. Isn't that in itself a clear indication of criminal activity? Lord alone knows that I believe it is. Surely this is the clarion call. Surely this is the moment where we unite. Surely this is where we recognize that government is limited in its power to administrate, and then we, the people, have to rise up and oppose their Luciferian power. I mean, Big Pharma by that. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Remember, we're back on Monday the 9th with an all-new show, and we want you to join us there on Rumble and Rumble Premium. In the meantime, if you can, stay free.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.